are normally in Greek and English. The roads vary enormously. Some are good, others will have more holes than road. And on these islands, you must always be prepared for the unexpected.
You'll find that the maps on sale on the islands look very detailed. However, our production team found they were not very accurate. For instance, one road in Naxos that looked reasonable on the map turned out to have 14 hairpin bends in this short section. So far, we've only looked at the central Cyclades, but we asked Matthew Collins to go to the more southern islands. Matthew, where exactly did you go?
Well, I went in October and I got to Santorini, which is the biggest of that particular southern group of islands. And then I went to Ios, which is very different from Santorini, but about an hour and a half away by ferry.
What was Santorini like?
Santorini was fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating when you approach it. It's a volcanic island, and in fact, most of the island was actually sunk in a volcanic explosion in about 1500 BC. But as you approach it, you see this massive cliff that juts out of the sea, streaked in all these sort of volcanic colours of grey and red and black and brown. And there's a theory that when the volcano erupted in 1500 BC, it actually covered the island. And the theory is that Santorini, the lost city, part of Santorini, is actually the lost city of Atlantis.
What did you do there?
Well, there are two sites of real historical interest in Santorini. The first is an old Minoan settlement that was covered in volcanic ash when the volcano erupted in 1500 BC. So this is a 3,500-year-old site that was actually excavated in the 60s and the 70s. And today you can actually visit this settlement, and it's all covered by a sort of huge greenhouse made up of kind of corrugated iron and plastic. But you walk around this site, which is 3,500 years old, and you see these old Minoan houses that are still some in very, very good condition. 2 and 3 stories high. The only rather annoying thing is that some of the frescoes they discovered there and some of the pots and vases and things that they discovered intact have all been shipped off to museums in Athens. So that's a bit frustrating. But the second site they've got is at a place called Ancient Thera, and that's in great contrast to the Akrotiri, which is the first earthquake site. And that's right at the top of the island on a mountain. And you go up there, you have to walk all the way to the top, which is a good walk, and it gives you a wonderful view of the island. And there the ruins are much later than the Minoan settlement of 1500 BC. And it's interesting because it's got all these wonderful old erotic carvings all over the square and stuff. And you see all these people going around looking in their guidebooks, trying to find these erotic carvings and these erotic graffitis of all these various anatomical bits and pieces.
What sort of people go there?
Well, all kinds of people go there. I mean, cruise ships call in on Santorini, so you get sort of fat Americans calling in and putting the prices up, which is a bit irritating. You also get package tourists, and you also get loads of backpackers, so there's a real mix.
And what's the main town like?
Well, the main town is actually very pretty. That's right at the top of the island. And if you arrive by boat and call in at the old port, you have to get to the top of the island and get to Thera. And you've got two options basically. You can either take a donkey or you can take a cable car. And most people obviously take the donkey because it's more exciting. So you see lots of these sort of fat old Americans off these cruise ships, sort of crushing these poor old clapped out donkeys. I mean, it's very sad. Or you get the cable car. But some people nevertheless still decide to walk, and they have to make their way through up 600 steps, all spattered in donkey droppings. And if that wasn't bad enough, then the donkey men, who get really annoyed if you haven't hired a donkey, actually just let their donkeys go wild and stampede them into all these people who have decided to walk up, because of course they haven't spent their money on donkeys. So my tips are actually take the donkey up and...
What was Ios like?
Well, Ios was in direct contrast to Santorini, because whereas Santorini is quite a historic island, Ios is what they call a party island. I mean, basically sun, sea, sex and souvlaki, probably less of the souvlaki than anything else. But Ios was quite... I found it quite sad in a way, because I met lots of Greek people who said their grandparents had actually become rather disillusioned with Ios and rather disillusioned with tourism, because of course you get loads of drunks there in the summer, bars are thronging till sort of 4 or 5 a.m, people pass out in the middle of the streets and everything, and it's all rather unpleasant. And on top of that you get people walking around restaurants and stuff, and people on the beach topless, people on the beach nude, and some of the Greek people I met said that their grandparents actually get very upset by seeing these topless people and these nude people all on family beaches. And one girl actually said her grandmother doesn't like going out of the house much in the summer, certainly not to the tourist parts of town.
Matthew, thank you. As Greece is in the European community, the more generous duty-free regulations apply. Incidentally, there's no duty-free shop at Mykonos Airport. That's all we have time for. We don't produce a fact sheet. The whole programme is full of facts. But as in previous years, we're happy to let you have a copy of the complete script, together with Matthew's tips for travellers. If you'd like one, it's £2, including postage and packing. Send a cheque or postal order payable to the BBC to the Travel Show Guides, P.O. Box 450, Manchester M60 1FZ. And please mark your envelope Greek Islands. That address is also in the Radio Times and on CFAX, page 619. Next week, our guide is to the little-known northern coast of Spain, sometimes called the Green Coast. Until then, goodbye.
Now on BBC Two, our early evening film swings into action with the thrills and spills of The Big Top as Victor Mature juggles with a falling bank balance, temperamental performers and sabotage. The Big Circus.